Hey, what's up? Okay, so anyways, got a couple of comments that I want to reply to. Okay, so a lot of people, by the way, thank you very much for the comments. Very cool. It's kind of like we're developing this little microorganism on my pages because I guess I'm talking about things that people find very interesting. Yes, and psychopaths are very creepy, and we focus a lot on looks and on getting what we want. So, yes, we can be very creepy, but we could also be very charming and cunning. But when we slip, like a lot of people are talking about how your mask eventually slips, we can detach, and in that state of detachment, we lose empathy and we look very, very creepy because we essentially become the shadow or the devil, if you want to use those terms. So, a lot of people are talking about abusive partners, that kind of thing, abusive men, controlling men, that kind of thing. Now, I've done a lot of studying on psychology and spirituality because when you're mentally ill or when you have borderline personality disorder, when you're psychopathic or narcissistic, you tend to study psychology quite a bit because not only do you study psychology to beat the system, so you learn everything about yourself, so you learn the tricks on how to manipulate people more, you become a better psychopath and a better narcissist. Okay, so here's one, for instance. A lot of these psychopathic and narcissistic channels, such as MedCircle and others, they talk about how when you go to a restaurant with a psychopath or a narcissist, be very careful and really pay attention to how that psychopath or that narcissist, the first person that you're dating at the time, how they treat the waiter, the waitress, and the people that they communicate other than you. And if they seem mean or they just brush those people off or they're not very nice to those people, but they're really nice to you, that's a really clear sign that they're really not that nice of a person. They just want to get something from you. They don't really care about others. They don't have empathy for others, that they don't care about people. They just want to woo you. Right? So be very careful about that. However, if you're a narcissist and a psychopath, you watch all those videos on narcissist, psychopath, and the behaviors of them, so you learn and you study yourself. Because as a narcissist or a psychopath, you want to know everything that these doctors are telling these average people on YouTube. So you study these psychopaths or these doctors talking about psychopaths on YouTube, and you learn everything you can from them. So you beat the system, right? So you can be a better manipulator, okay? But if you're dating somebody that's a psychopath or a narcissist for a very long time, you'll start to see really creepy signs, okay? So one of them is, if a person is controlling, abusive, that kind of thing, if they're dating you and you don't break up with them, okay, there could be several reasons why you're not breaking up with them. One of them is probably maybe it has something to do with financial reasons, you have kids together, whatever it is. But if you're not tied down to them financially, or if you don't have children with them and you can leave and you have a very supporting family that you can leave, that narcissist or that psychopath, and go towards more loving and caring people such as your family or your friends, and you're not tied down to that psychopath or that narcissist financially, or you don't have some living agreement with them, or you don't have children with them, one of the reasons why you may be staying with them is because it's familiar to you. That pain, the way they're treating you, the way they're controlling you, abusing you, it could be familiar to you because that's how your parents controlled you or neglected you emotionally in childhood or abused you in childhood, okay? So it could be that familiarity of how you were raised in childhood, and that's why you're still staying with that narcissist or that psychopath. Second is, and this is really creepy, I just found this out. I was listening to Gabor the other day, and he was talking about how sometimes when you stay with an abusive person, you stay with them because the way your father raised you, usually it's a father figure, or it could be a mother. So say your father, you always wanted your father's love, and you never felt loved by your dad, right? but you wanted to. You wanted to feel that love from your father, but you never could. That emotional love. You felt neglected and you felt like you weren't cared for or cared about by your dad, right? So you find somebody later on in life and they remind you of your father. Certain things, whether it's they have a beard or they act a certain way, they talk a certain way like your dad did, whatever. But they remind you, this new person reminds you of your father. So you attach to that person and you start dating them. And you're waiting for that recognition of care and love from that new partner that reminds you of your father, so you will feel like your father finally loved you and cared about you. So you're getting your needs met later in life by this new person that's not your father, but they are symbolic of your father. If that's not very confusing. But that may be one of the reasons why you stay with that person. Because you need your emotional needs and your love needs met and your attachment needs met from a very young age when you were in childhood from your caregiver or your parent. Whether it's your father, your mother, your grandparents, wherever. So those are two of the biggest reasons. I had a family member that was with a very abusive person for many, many years, and they weren't leaving that person. And that person that was abusive, they came from a very messed up family, right? So the reason why they treated my family member so abusively is because that's how they learned in childhood how relationships worked. That's how you treated people. That's how you talked about people. That's how you acted with people. Is all these things that they learned when they were a child, they now acted out in adulthood towards their partner. And a lot of these people that are psychopaths, narcissists, people that are abusive later on in life, a lot of it comes from the trauma that they faced and all of the non-loving attachments that they didn't have early on in childhood. So it's very difficult for those people to reverse those effects. And the only way for them to reverse those effects is to be a more kind and loving person, is to do deep work. I mean, deep work, psychologically and spiritually. But, however, many people that are psychopaths, our prefrontal cortex doesn't have certain things in line that average people do. That's why we lack empathy. That's why we can't smell. That's why we don't yawn when other people yawn. I don't yawn at all. There could be somebody across from me and they yawn. I don't yawn at all. I don't really smell anything because my prefrontal cortex isn't developed. And that could have been something in genetics. That could have been the trauma and the stress that I went through when I was a child. And that could have been due to the fact that I had 1.5 to 2.5 hour long seizures where I couldn't stop the seizure, right? So my brain was scrambled, okay? So it could have been all three of those reasons, So my best advice to anybody that if you think you're dating somebody that's abusive, controlling, psychopathic, narcissistic, any of those things, if you are not tied down to them financially, or if you don't have children with them, or if you're not in a living arrangement with them, where you can escape and you could live with more caring people. But a lot of the problems is if we are attached or attracted to those people, most of us don't have loving families anyways. Because if you have any form of trauma, mental illness, or if you're attracted to a psychopath, chances are you're going to have really messed up parents, or you're going to have a mentally ill mother, or a mentally ill father, or you're going to come from sexual abuse or any abuse at all. See, there's a reason why we're attracted to those people, and there's also a reason why psychopaths and narcissists are attracted to certain people. We're like predators and we look out for people. We are very cunning and we could read people extremely well. So if we are kind of a shark or a crocodile and we see somebody and they look weak like a little tiny deer or a rabbit, and we know we could take them and manipulate them and control them, we will. So be very, very careful. And a lot of it has to do with where you came from, what your childhood was like, what your family was like, if they were loving, if they gave you attention or not. All these things are gigantic factors, and they become factors that later on in life, and you're in adulthood, if you don't have a certain self-esteem and you lack confidence, a psychopath or a narcissist will spot you, and it will be attracted to you, and it will lurk and find you, because that's what we're looking for. It's really simple. Like, I like cute, innocent-looking women. I don't like girls that think they're hot at all. Like, girls that think they're hot, it's a total turn off for me. But that's a whole other video. Anyways, man, much love. Hope you're having fun.